With me today, and I have Professor Anthony Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, CIAPS. Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office Enough. Well, thank you for showing up today. Well, we've been discussing two major subjects. First is 10th anniversary of the Chibok girls who were abducted on April 14, 267 of them from the government secondary school, girls secondary school in Chibok. And then also the incident that occurred yesterday, Iran attacking Israel in a retaliatory response to the attack on, Iranian embassy in Damascus a few weeks ago. And that, again, has changed the calculus about global peace, about world peace. So, but let me start with you, Adamolekun. You were very prominent, very active in the Chibok girls' struggle and in the abduction scandal that Nigeria has had to face. Here we are, 10 years later. What do you think?
What do I think? Do we have an hour? Or maybe two? Unfortunately, I think the summary for us, both as an organization, the organization that I lead, and the movement, is really a sense that it doesn't seem like Nigeria has learned from the Chibok abduction. And it's interesting if you look at the tag for this segment of the show, it's called Nigeria Remembers the Chibok Girls. Not the world remembers the Chibok girls, but the Chibok abduction was an international affair. As the package you have been playing during the day talks about, it was like everybody that was on a red carpet or a prominent position couldn't get by without mentioning or carrying the Bring Back Our Girls banner. Even the current president, then as a citizen, did do a photo op with the Bring Back Our Girls banner. But what is clear in what has happened over the last 10 years that speaks to what I think is that when almost 300 students were again kidnapped from a school in Kaduna, it was barely a blip. Some news platforms mentioned it. It was discussed a bit, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure the kind of international. I can't name the number of. Let me take that back. I can name the number of international platforms that carried it in probably one hand, and that's a marked difference between what happened when Chibok girls were kidnapped. So that says quite a number of things. To us as a people, we've become numb over the last 10 years to people being kidnapped. There have been at least 38 school-related abductions in the last 10 years. And so with each abduction, people just get number and number and number, less engaged in the matter. Because how many times are you going to shout, bring back our girls, bring back our boys, bring back our children, secure our lives? And in the international community, my God, what has happened in the world in the last 10 years? We are talking about Iran and Israel today, but you have that, you have Ukraine and Russia. There's so much that has happened. So also the human bandwidth to continue to pile on trauma of thinking about young women who have been in captivity for 10 years, it's a lot. So in summary, I would say that unfortunately the Nigerian government hasn't learned in 10 years. And the anchor for that is the part of our constitution that says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary responsibility of government, full stop. On security, they have failed. So if we use the Chibok abduction as context, on security, they have failed. On welfare, they have failed. And if we then sort of extrapolate that to how this administration and previous administration, we've had 3 presidents on this matter, have engaged on this issue, it will be a fail, not a pass mark.
Section 14, subsection 2B of the 1999 Constitution, Professor Kila. Well, the Chibok girls' abduction, and then Iran attacking Israel.
Well, let's start from home. The Chibok girls' abduction, I think, is a metamorphosis. The reaction to it is moved from a global shock to a national failure, and then from there to a regional indolence. We have to look at it that way. The reason why the first time it happened and the whole world was following it, because nobody had ever seen anything like that. You know, it sounded crazy, incredible, ununderstandable. From there, some people went to power. It is safe to say fraudulently now, claiming that they were able to solve that problem. They wasted 8 years of our life in power and they didn't solve the problem. It must be said. But beyond that, the northern region, and I really want to call out the northern region, with all the emirs, the sultan, the leaders, have not stood up to community development. There needs to be a block in the northern region, true or false. When the people of the Southwest, insipidly called, the Yoruba people, insipidly called Southwest, decided that was a threat, the reaction was to have a group, you know, the idea that this part of the world is under siege. Some of them false, some of them exaggerated, but you can see there's a reaction. I call out the northern region because the governors and all the people that form that region, because they've not been able to say, never again in our territory, and to use that to negotiate for governance, to use that to insist on the Article 41 of the Constitution that you say, that our children must be safe. It says a lot about them.
Article 14. Section 14.
Section 14 that you
14,
said, to say...
Sub 2B.
Sub 2B, to say our children must be safe. I think it's indolent on their part. And I think if we don't call it out, it's going to repeat itself. It is logical to expect people to keep schools safe. But if you understand how education has been treated, then you will not be surprised that they've not been able to keep schools safe. And therein lies layers, block after block, of the reason why we're here today. There's a tendency in Nigeria to deal with consequence, but not sequence of action. And that is how we get into a lot of trouble. And I want viewers to think about it that way. I leave it at that, and everybody can see each of their responsibility on where we are. Away from this mess to another mess, the Iran attack on Israel. You know, I think that is a chronicle of a foretold disaster that was going to happen. You know, it was clear they were going to retaliate. I think they waited for Ramadan to finish. And once that is over, they came. So it's not a surprise at all. I heard Biden said, I know you're going to do it, don't. You know, but they've gone to do it. The issue here is not actually the news. It's not the attack of Iran, because we saw that coming. It is the reaction of the US and the West. Those who suspect that the US and the West have a special, if not preferential, treatment for Israel are now fully justified in the way they're reacting. Because the reaction of the US and the West is not a reaction of somebody who's saying, let's find peace. It's somebody saying, you're attacking my friend. And I think that contradicts all the raison d'etre of what the community of nations has to be.
Saying there will be a World War III. Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, and coming
No,
together.
I do not think there'll be a World War III. Well, I really want to be right, because if I'm wrong, we'll all be dead. I do not think there'll be a World War III. I think there'll be a new block in the world. We're going back to the circle. I was mentioning 1986 before coming here, before the show. We're going back to pre-89, pre-87. We're going back to the Cold War era, in which the world is divided into block again. It's not exactly going to be the same. History does not repeat itself in the same way. But clearly, the world is showing that they're on one path. The new thing is that the division will now be taken into consideration straight away, actually starting from Africa and the Middle East. Business people already have such blocks where they put desk on EMA, Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa. And if you look at the EME block, now I move away literally just slightly away from international relations to go to international business. And if you look at those desk of corporations that do EMEA, This is exactly the mindset that they used to do it, to know that Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa is the same desk. And that is a new turning point of the new world. Why? Because Europe with the EU has found understanding and a quasi-unity, and America has followed that. So the new world, the place where war starts, is where there's uncertainty, a bit of chaos, maybe dictatorship, and that is what we're having now.
Okay, very good. Professor Aworawo, first the Chibok girls, 10 years after, and where is Africa in this geopolitics that Professor Kila just described? I don't exactly agree with him, but where is Africa in that emerging geopolitics?
Well, let me begin with the Chibok girls. It was an unfortunate development that was probably preventable. And that is what I want to really highlight, because many of the issues have been discussed. I mean, it was clear that there was a directive that WAEC exam should not be written outside Maiduguri, arising from the analysis of the insecurity that that area experienced, which was why the presidency at that time didn't believe it when they said people had been kidnapped in Chibok. Because they had directed that nobody should write WAEC exam outside Maiduguri. But some elements went ahead and the exams had, people were abducted and all. So the point I want to make there is this: life is too precious to be put on the chessboard of politics and personal gain. To my mind, some people actually put those girls in harm's way. And up till now, even when those who were opposed to the government at that time have taken over power, they haven't managed to recover all of them. My mind bleeds that ever happened. Because the presidency was very clear, and nobody denied the fact that they received directive from the presidency that exams should not hold outside Maiduguri, which was safer. They went ahead and got an exam in Chibok, and the girls were kidnapped. 10 years on, with those who were opposed to the government at that time being in power, many of the girls are still in the bush. It is very disheartening. There should be a limit to how far people go to gain political power. If political power is about coming to serve people, if people want you, they will vote for you. If they don't want you, well, go and rest. If you really want to serve, if you lose the election, you shouldn't really, you shouldn't be sad. You wanted to serve, they say they don't want you to serve, go and do other things.
Not do or die.
Yes, and I'm saying this because this thing reverberates in many other things that affect our national life. The extent, even the banditry we're talking about, there are also indications that there are elements of trying to get political gain in the expansion of banditry. And see the leviathan that these things have become. And how many years are we going to tackle this thing to be able to, check it? And look at the impact on development. When people enter the bush, people can't go and farm. When they cause their disruption, people go to IDPs. People should be working, and not in IDPs, they need people to feed them. So it's double jeopardy. They can't work, somebody needs to feed them, and the cumulative effect on development is just disastrous. So my summation, my colleagues have talked about the other issues, is that in pursuing political power, we should be measured. Everything should not be, we can be Machiavellian. Even Machiavellianism has a measured approach. We should be measured, true. If these girls were in Maiduguri as government directed, all of this Chibok story we are talking about would not have happened. And see,
and the things after.
Yes, fast forward 10 years, where we are. So for Chibok girls, those are the things I have to say. And to me, it is exceedingly disheartening that ever happened. And what has happened since then is even more disheartening. Then in Iran, Iraq, it's just a failure of the international order. It just shows the international order is, international law. The philosopher Grotius many years ago has asked questions regarding international law. Is international law?
Yeah.
Arising from arising from the difficulties and almost incapacity of the global order to enforce decisions taken regarding it. The Security Council, after many flip-flops, managed to get the resolution the other day. How far has it been enforced? And see where we are. Israel attacked some facilities of Iran. Iran has fought back. US is UK. They are rushing equipment to Israel to protect Israel. My conclusion in that is that the US, the United Kingdom, those great powers should be very careful. The US being a superpower, especially, should be very careful. At this point, it should not be seen to be too committed to one state, to the detriment of the global order. Because when the global order becomes topsy-turvy, the US itself will be affected. And of course, all of us will be affected. And Africa, in the old geopolitics, the currency of international relations is power.
Yeah.
Africa lacks power. And so Africa is peripheral in all of this.
Well, good question. It's international law.
No,
Many of my classmates at the University of Lagos Faculty of Law, they will ponder over that. But Yemi, there's a book on Chibok girls that I thought you would
bring up.
help us present, as part of the emerging literature on the Chibok girls effect.
So over the last 10 years, there's been quite a number of documentaries and quite a number of books about the Chibok girl abduction. Aisha Oyebode has written a book called The Stolen Daughters of Chibok. And the book was released, I believe, a year or two ago internationally, but this year, this is the Nigerian edition. And it's significant in my view, not only because it's the first book authored by a Nigerian on the Chibok abduction, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I take that back, that's not true. Helen Nabila had a book on the Chibok girls. But Aisha, I guess I would say especially because she's a member of the Bring Back Our Girls movement. And what's also interesting about her book is because it's a compilation of articles. So Olusegun Obasanjo writes the foreword, Bishop Kuka has a chapter, Emir Sanusi has a chapter, as well as a few others. But what's also significant, I think, to layer this, is that on Thursday, the Muritala Muhammad Foundation, of which Aisha serves as CEO, published a book on the Chibok abduction as well. And I think it's called 10 Years, 10 years after, I forget the exact title, but it's specifically about the Chibok abduction and then focuses on just what has happened, the economy of the region, what has happened to the parents since then. And she provides some data. 48 parents have died since then. She lists the 276 girls. She has that comprehensive list. Until today, as I mentioned earlier, the federal government of Nigeria has not provided a comprehensive list of the girls, much less the 38 that has happened since. So it's good, at least in this period, that we're getting literature that people can work with. But to also just reinforce that if the report that the Muritala Muhammad Foundation released on Thursday is the first time there's a comprehensive report on the Chibok abduction, and we've had 38 more abductions in the last 10 years, we need 38 more reports.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for presenting this book. You know that this book will not leave this studio. I will hold it. But if you insist on going with it, Aisha Mohammed Oyebode is my brother's wife. So I can always call her to give me a copy. But there was also a book by Aisha Sese,
Yes.
beneath the tamarind tree, written by Aisha Sese, CNN correspondent. So when we have these incidents, whether it's civil war or abduction in Chibok, literature comes out of it. And the whole effect of the literature is for us to learn lessons from Israel. Well, let's take the next subject. Very interesting one also. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it is determined to fight to a standstill those who are fond of defacing the naira by spraying the currency during various social gatherings. One such case is that of controversial cross-dresser Idris Olanrewaju Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, Bobotoriski, who was recently sentenced to 6 months in prison without the option of a fine. The court said the judgment will serve as a deterrent to others found committing the same offense. Before the sentence, the judge asked about his gender, and he quickly replied that he was a man. The judge ruled that the jail term took retrospective effect from March 24, the day of his arrest. Bobrisky, at last Friday after his conviction, pleaded guilty with the court to give him a lesser punishment, as he was not aware of the law against abusing the naira. Well, Professor Kila, let me start with you. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
That's
So that's what Justice Aworawo has established. And then secondly, I mean, you are a chief. You know, one of these people who go about spraying money. So people are saying the law is unfair to Bobrisky. After all, there are many people out there who spray money. This weekend, look, if you go to Instagram, there are more and more people spraying money. So why is it that Section 21
is being applied to
of the CBN Act of 2007 is being applied only in the case of Bobrisky? So why is the law an ass, as Charles Dickens pointed out in A Tale of Two Cities, through Bumblebee, I think that's the name of the character there. So why is the law an ass? Well, one man targeted.
Yes.
When all of you are guilty, including you, Professor.
I'm picking on me on this matter. Well, I think, so the first thing that comes to my mind is that with this situation, you know, with this precedent that the judiciary and the EFCC have created, my first instinct is to say that we need to create more prison spaces. Because if we're going to apply this law, a lot of people will have to go to jail. And there are proof. I would like, with the people, to challenge and test, maybe test is a better word, the consistency of the judiciary and the EFCC by posting images of anybody spraying and tag the EFCC in so that they cannot say they did not see it. And I'd also like for all to notice that if they're going to prosecute and jail anybody, it should not be just the givers of the naira, they're in the process of abusing it. It should also be the takers. So that will be musicians, it will be the bride, it will be mother-in-laws, it will be sisters and brothers of the judges and the EFC people that are prosecuting them. If we don't do that, then we have to look at the situation and see that the judge has been strangely harsh on Bobrisky. And swift.
Oh, yeah.
Swift process, harsh judgment. You know, it makes you believe there's something else behind it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's something staring at you to say there is more than the eyes meet in this case. I want people to also notice that this crime, because since there's conviction, we have to call it a crime. This crime has no victim. A crime with no victim that sends somebody to jail without option of fine, it doesn't stand well. It's a kick to common sense. It's a kick to common practice. And we need to tell ourselves, if they want to charge Bobrisky for something else, they should go and do whatever that something else is. And I want those who think that, okay, maybe they cannot get Bobrisky on this one, they should get him on something else. They need to be very careful, because one day they're coming to get you on something else. The whole essence of the law is that the law should be clear, should be understandable, should be based on proof. We're told beyond reasonable doubt. The law is not about using A to get to B. That is a very dangerous thing. It might amuse some people today, it might be good today, but tomorrow it is dangerous. And I close by saying, paraphrasing just a line of it, we should all think this way. They came to take Bobrisky. I did not say anything because I'm not Bobrisky. Finish the phrases yourself.
With due respect, Professor Kila, Section 21 of the CBN Act 2007 is very clear.
It's very clear, yeah.
If you write on the naira, mutilating it, you are guilty of a felony. If you stamp on it, you are guilty of a felony. If you sell all the people hawking naira,
I forgot to
they are also
to jail.
They are also guilty
as well. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, it's a long list of about 11 felonies. Yes. But you can't go to court and say everybody is doing it. Why am I the person?
In fact,
that is not a defense in law.
No, it's not a defense. And
ignorance is also not a defense.
I did not say
law.
that.
And I think that Milord, Justice Abimbola Aworawo, you know, he's saying, well, no option of fine. That's discretionary.
Absolutely. So a discretion that can be put by somebody who has never passed an OMB party before. A discretion that can be applied by somebody who lives in a world that has not seen anything Instagram before. that is not aware of what is going on in Nigeria. Exactly. Your Lordship, be careful.
No, but what I think is more important here is that Justice Aworawo has proved that Section 21 of the CBN Act of 2007 is not a dead law. That is a living law.
Yeah. It isn't.
That's the lesson. That's the lesson.
No, it's not a dead law. And that's a signal to other people. Like you, Chief Kila, Chief Professor Kila, who will be tempted to go to your village and spray money.
That really is the point. The point is that we don't need it to be proven to people like Professor Kila, because I can almost guarantee you that law will not be applied again. For a while.
You never.
And that's why I said I can almost guarantee precisely. Exactly.
That is why
and so I like this challenge, because if you can then send to...
Well, I know Professor Aworawo is not going to spray money. He's still looking for the money that the Nigerian government is still owing him. But before I come to you, Professor Aworawo, I know as a professor, you have a view on it. Still on the commemoration of the abduction of Chibok girls, we now cross live. Oh, we don't have Mary Chinda. I thought Mary Chinda is out there in Abuja, attending to this event on 10 years after the Chibok girls. But okay, when we have Mary Chinda, we'll come back. So I come back to you, Professor Aworawo.
Well, the first question is, do you spray or do you not spray? Knowing very well you might be under oath.
Professor Aworawo, that has not received salary. Do you spray?
Where will I find it? Where will I find the money to spray? Well, that is just at one level. But speaking seriously, even though the judge had the discretion, we have analyzed all of this, and it is very unusual for a judge to apply the upper limit of sanctions possible for an offense for a first-time offender who pleaded guilty. Very, very rare.
Yeah. Without the option of fine.
Yes, and that is the issue. Yeah. The issue of whether many people are doing it is not where I'm coming from. The issue of whether it's so widespread is not where I'm coming from. But it is extremely rare for you to find a judge applying the upper limit of sanctions available for an offense when, for a first-time offender who pleaded guilty. And that then speaks to the point Professor Kila has just made, that is there something about risky somebody is trying to get at and then using this currency thing as a basis to achieve it? That's the question that needs to be answered. And those who don't like us, whether it doesn't matter,
like
let it be. Whether
he or she?
Yes.
The mommy of Lagos.
Anyway, in any case, let me even speak to that. He's not even bold. If I were him, do you know what I would have said? When the judge said, what's your gender?
Well, I would have said,
I would have said, my lord, I'm somewhere in between. I'm transgender. Yes, she's not bold to say, after all this dressing.
There is the same-sex Prohibition and Prevention Act of 2014.
I will know. She will have said, I'm somewhere in between, and let the judge go and
that one is 14 years old. The punishment is 14 years old.
Speaking seriously, I think that judgment was harsh. And it is suggestive of somebody trying to target somebody, and I don't know, but our judges need to be careful in the way, when you have discretion, even in that discretion can be subject to scrutiny. And the scrutiny is what the point I'm pointing at now, that it is rare. Show me how many cases where a first-time offender who pleaded guilty is given the upper limit of the options available for a sanction. It's almost, you can hardly find it.
The law is what it is. Sustaining positivity.
Yeah, it is what it is. But it has to be condign.
The law is what it is.
It has to be condign. And that is the point we, from the social angle, are pointing out on this matter.
And from a jurisprudential act, we also add that a law that exposes itself to suspicion of intention is not a good judgment. Any sentence that can be suspected.
No. Justice Aworawo has not acted outside the province of the law.
No, he hasn't.
That's why I said the law is what it is.
No, he hasn't. That's the problem we have.
Yeah, Augustinian positivity.
But you see, when positivity becomes a problem, is a big problem.
Okay, can I add to that? And I think for me, it's really where you reference the people that sell currency. Yeah. Go to a party in Lagos. Actually, so first of all, our ATMs don't have cash. Let's be clear. Or you go to a party in Lagos on any given day of the week, there will be people selling you not only naira, but mint, which means they didn't get it on the streets.
They're also guilty of a felony.
No, I'm not saying that we agree they're guilty, but they have not been. So my thing, I guess where I'm going, let me land it properly. If the real intent of the EFCC is to talk about the value of the naira and why we must treat it with dignity and respect and one thing, they should start with the house that prints the naira, i.e. the CBN, and find the people who make it possible for the ATMs not to have cash, and people going from ATM to ATM looking for cash. But if you arrive at a party, no matter how much you are looking for that you want to spray, you will find it.
Prevention rather than prosecution.
So, but we didn't do that one. We now decided to scapegoat, dare I say, an individual who we are accusing of an offense that others have also committed. And so if the naira is really to be protected, I think we should deal more with the institutions that have the mandate also, since we want to talk about law, who have the mandate by law.
Okay, the thing about the law is that you cannot come and say my neighbor is committing the other offense.
I'm not in front of you.
So why are you arresting me?
No, it's not even that. And I'm also making it clear that one, I am not the claimant, defendant, whatever the English word is, number one. Number two, I'm not in front of a judge. I'm saying that if there is an issue, and this is EFCC, this is not even I'm not even discussing the judges. I'm not even talking about the judge. I'm talking about EFCC. That if EFCC is really concerned about the naira, deal with CBN. But if you're looking for a way to get to Bobrisky by another means, then let's get serious.
Well, the law doesn't work that way.
Yes.
If 100 people commit the same offense,
that's not what
if you are the only one that they pick up.
You keep singing in that. I said, you keep singing that song. Those are not my words. I am not talking about other people are doing. I'm saying, did I talk about spraying?
Okay, what do you want the EFCC to do?
Face the CBN and ask them why they're making naira.
Why
are you making naira?
We need to prevent rather than prosecute. The process that leads to what they now call abuse of naira stems from the fact that people buy that money at the party.
No, but people spray dirty notes too.
Really?
And they say they do. I mean, they spray dirty notes too. And they say it's the culture that we have to appreciate our people. So the bigger argument is about people say, it's a cultural thing.
But no, let me tell you
we have to spray money.
But let me tell you what has also happened. That event
money that some of us are looking for.
No, but let's speak. I'm looking for money. Doctor, but let's speak to the issue. Event planners have also found a way around it, understanding that it's a culture, but also understanding that it's a crime.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Vouchers.
I give you 100,000 naira, I print fake money. You can have your face on it, Abati at 50, or Abati at 60, which the people buy.
Next year, you people start saving money.
But on a serious note, which people then buy, and then you can spray that. If spraying is the act of spraying that you want to do, and they do it in do it in currencies as well. So if you want to show that you're a big boy with 1,000 naira, they will help your ministry.
They will print 50,000 naira for you.
If you so wish, exactly. Yeah. So let's be fair to ourselves about this whole issue of culture.
But you see, Prof and Dr. the situation, the problem we have here is lack of respect for human dignity in Nigeria. We do not respect our citizens. There are three things missing here. Yes, that law has been there. Guess what? If we decide to start enacting that law, knowing that it can have serious consequences like this, there should be some kind of campaign before they go out. But to do that, there must be fairness and no hidden agenda. That is what we're suspecting here. Number two is this. Those who argue that it's a cultural thing, that the law is challenging, they need to go and look for their legislator, because that thing was passed in Parliament. Do their legislator not know that law is a vulnerability, to the culture of the people they represent? We really need to think of holistic accountability in what we do, a matrix that put together all our actions. And I think those are part of what is missing here. But I return to the fact that a first offender that went to court, admit their fault, I said, I am guilty, I'm sorry, and you condemn such offender with the harshest punishment
In the
possible.
shortest period of
In the
time.
shortest period of time
Look,
is a rare
there
case.
There are many parts to it.
Aha, yes, there are many
Look,
parts.
if Bobrisky, Idris Okuneye, that's his name, if he had pleaded guilty, that would have provided not guilty. If he had pleaded not guilty, that would have provided an opportunity to stretch the case.
And that is a failure again of the lawyers.
The case would have been there,
for a
but
long time.
he pleaded guilty. Once you plead guilty, you have a charge against you, you plead guilty, you make the work of the court
But can I just
easy.
say, in case of, exactly,
So
easy,
that's what I'm
it.
saying.
In case of young law student, listen, the reason why you plead guilty is that when you plead guilty, you get some kind of discount for making the process of the law easy.
Yeah,
it is not because you are born again.
As happened in the case of Simi Gold.
Yes.
In January 2024.
Yes.
Who was given the option of fine.
Of a fine.
But the option of fine is at the discretion of the judge.
Yes.
So, Bobrisky, Idris Okuneye going there and saying, I'm guilty. It's up to the judge.
And he also tells us that if we don't have the institution of community service, maybe here's the time to start doing that.
Well, ACJA, the Administration of Criminal Justice System Act of 2015 makes provision. So that's where you can have a strong argument. And say ACTA 2015, makes provision for community service, reduced sentencing, and all of that. But look, the Justice Aworawo sitting down there can use his discretion, and that's what he did to make a point, so that you, Chief Kila, will not go and spray money in public.
There's one thing I want to point out.
Yes.
The law says mutilation of the naira.
Yes.
How does spraying translate to mutilation?
Mutilation and abuse.
That has been
No,
raised.
mutilation. If, for example,
if you are spraying the
if you
naira,
squeeze the naira, you are in trouble.
you are spraying it like
you
that.
throw it
No,
on the floor.
if you spray it, you are abusing it. If you, Professor Kila, Professor Aworawo, you take a note and you put your phone number on a clean note for a girl, you are in trouble.
How does that translate to mutilation? You are just
You're throwing it on the floor. Mutilation and abuse is the expression. You're throwing it on the floor. It's meant for money transaction. No, he's right, because somebody was telling me yesterday, okay, so what if you just put in the hand of the musician?
No, okay, that's another angle. Can musicians now go for a class action and say you are ruining our business? Because that's how they survive.
Well, I have news for you. There are some people planning class action based on cultural interest.
Let them go to court. We
Yes.
test the law.
We test the
I think
law.
the important thing is that the law
I think the law should be
is being tested.
Yes. But so far it's an ass.
The truest form of the law, substance of the law, is that you have to test it.
They test it.
Now, I think Mary Chinda is now with us. Mary Chinda, thank you for joining us. She is in Abuja at the 10th anniversary of the abduction of Chibok girls. Hello, Mary. Good to have you. Hello, Mary Chinda. Can you hear me?
Not yet.
She can't hear you.
Hello, Mary Chinda. Are you there? Hi, Mary.
Good evening, Dr. Obati.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this
Dr.
live.
Obati. I'm live from the Unity Fountain, where the 10th memorial is being held for the 276 Chibok schoolgirls who were abducted on that very horrific night of the 14th of April in 10 years ago, 2014.
Well, what's the situation there, and what's your reflection 10 years after the abduction? I understand that you have one or two people who are with you there that you would like to talk to. Can we have that?
First off, the predominant emotion here is that of defeat, is that of sadness. You see, members of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign who were still able to make it here. However, you know, in disgruntlement, because it seemed that the high hopes that the group had as they started off, you know, was somewhat being dashed by the government. Now, 48 of the parents of these schoolgirls have passed, you know, in the last 10 years. You know, 3 of the parents of these schoolgirls have also been killed in subsequent attacks in the Chibok community. So, of course, I mean, even though we have the likes of Dr. Obi Ezekwesili over there, and of course her husband, we have Aisha Yusufu and other pioneering members of the Bring Back Our Girls group saying prayers, both in Christian prayers and Muslim prayers, hoping that God is going to intervene in this case. There's this widespread sadness, you know, over the fact that 82 of the Chibok daughters are still at large. I've had the rare opportunity of meeting one of the schoolgirls who actually escaped 4 years after being in custody of these bandits. And even though her parents, her brother would not let me come live on this interview with Arise TV, she had to explain to me the horror of living in the custody of these kidnappers for 4 years. She had actually ran out of that place one of those nights in the early days in January 2018. And it's been a couple of years, and you can still see the trauma that this little girl who is 25 right now has had to go through.
I mean, you are right there in Abuja. Is there someone you can talk to just for a few minutes reacting to this tragedy, as we can describe it?
Dauda Ilia, who is the president of the Chibok community. And in his earlier remark, they are actually making a lot of demands from the government of the state. Sir, could you highlight to us again just a few remarks about what it is the Chibok community is demanding from the state government?
Thank you very much. Like you had in the press release that we made earlier at this commemoration event, the Chibok community is very unhappy with the behavior of the Borno State government because of the lack of transparency and lack of empathy. They have refused access to these girls by keeping them in what they describe as safe houses in Maiduguri without letting their parents or guardians or even the Chibok community have access to them, and they won't let them go back to their homes. They won't give access to even the local community leaders to interact and find out what their immediate needs are. I mean, this looks to us like a second abduction or a second incarceration, this time by authorities or government in Borno State. It's unacceptable to us. And on this occasion of the 10th year commemoration, we have placed our demands in writing, specifically asking that the government should come open and let us have access to these girls, find out what their needs are, so that we can try to rehabilitate them. Some of them have a lot of needs, medical, educational, even vocational needs, because some of them have gone past school age that, you know, they left from. Don't forget, these people left in secondary school. Now they're in their mid-20s. You don't send a mid-25, 26-year-old to go start secondary school. So vocational maybe is the way to go. So these are some of the soft issues. There are harder issues that has to do with funding and accountability about monies made through the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs that we are asking to know how is it being used. Like you know, in Nigeria, Money is always being, swallowed by snakes here and there. So we're making a lot of demands, like you saw in the press statement.
You did point attention to the fact that as the Chibok community, you are not comfortable with the government, marrying off some of these girls to the repentant abductors. So they are repentant abductors. Tell us a little more about that.
That's illegality. Someone in captivity cannot negotiate marriage. It was Nelson Mandela who said someone in prison cannot negotiate. Marriage is by negotiation, is by consent, and I don't see how people in captivity can negotiate marriage. So we believe that this is illegal. It is obnoxious. And the Borno State government should come clean over this matter. Otherwise, like we said in the statement, we're going to sue.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Bati. I also have a mother of one of the girls who is still in captivity. 194 of these girls are back, but we have 82 others who are still in captivity. And Madam Rhoda here has been crying her eyes out all day, wanting to truly get reunited with her daughter 10 years after. Madam, please tell us how have you been able to go through this 10 years without seeing your daughter?
This 10 years is not easy. I don't get it easy. This girl, that on 13th April 2014, we are together with her. That is the last day. I don't hear from her again. I don't see her. I'm very, 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 very...
All right, Ruben, this is what the mood is at the Unity Fountain right here. It's not just this mother who's crying. There are other people here, fathers who are still expecting to be reunited with their children.
Thank you very much, Mary Chinda, reporting live from the Unity Fountain in Abuja on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the abduction of the Chibok girls. Well, let's come back to you briefly. Yemi, let me start with you.
I think, what saddens me is the fact that every year on April 14, we get a bit of media attention. We do events in Abuja, in Lagos. Nigerians are reminded of where we are, and soon after, it goes back to the norm. Here in Lagos, around Falomo, for the last 8 odd years, we've posted the Bring Back Our Girls movement in Lagos, has put up pictures on the girls at the roundabout, just as a reminder to let people know that they haven't gone. I am expectant to see what the federal government will do in response to this. Remi Tinubu was a senator, and that we engaged while she was here in Lagos. She's now the first lady of the country, and I think the Chibok girls wrote an open letter to her, just speaking to her directly. She was here in Lagos till yesterday morning, so I'm sure she saw the names again as a reminder at the roundabout. And also just this notion of a government, like in a sense, almost want to say that it's a low-hanging fruit. It's a low-hanging fruit, not just about the Chibok girls, but if you put it in context of about 600 people were abducted in 1 week in March in this country. So when you put it within the context of the fact that the primary security and welfare shall be the primary responsibility of government. So let's leave all the talking. Let's leave all the nice things on social media. Let's just do our jobs. Provide security and provide welfare for citizens.
Well, it looks like we've run out of time. Thank you very much, Yemi Adamolekun. Thank you, Professor Kila, and thank you very much, Professor David Aworawo.